Hey, it's Lucy. As I record this in late April 2020, I am in lockdown here in the UK. And wherever you are in the world, you probably are too, or if you're watching this from the blessed land of the future, you probably were in lockdown at this time. Here in the UK, under government lockdown, I work from home. I text my friends and FaceTime my family. I leave the house once a day maybe for my allotted period of exercise, and maybe once a week to brave the perils of food shopping. But details aside, the really funny thing is that my life as a PhD student actually hasn't changed much at all. When I stopped and thought it through, I realised that my life while writing up my thesis, and probably a fair bit before that, it looks a lot like most people's social distancing. And I'm going to bet that a lot of PhD students can empathise with that. Now, we could despair about this, or we could say, my time has come. All those years of training in self-isolation are finally paying off, and our time as PhD students has come to shine. So over the next couple of weeks, I am going to get out a couple of lighthearted videos just talking about all the ways that we PhD students have absolutely got this. We know self-isolation better than most, and as someone who's kind of been living this lifestyle anyway, naturally, I'm going to talk about ways that we can make it not just bearable, but hopefully even a little bit comfortable. The first reason why we'll get through a couple of months of lockdown no problem is we set our own routine. Unlike people with a 9 to 5 or who have to commute to a set office, PhD students are essentially unemployed. Unlike people with a 9 to 5, PhD students are essentially not unemployed. I'm trying to say self-employed. It's funny because it's true. We work when we want, where we want, on what we want, and for how long we want. And really we're the only people keeping us in line. Now, during a global pandemic, this fact is our friend. If you've worked from home before, and if you're anything like me, then you will have just from the odd day that you couldn't be bothered going in and looking civilised, then you're already ahead of most of the curve of people who are adjusting to life during lockdown, because you'll probably have some kind of workspace set up, even if it's just a desk. Clear this out. Make it neat and tidy. Make it so that it's just a space for work. Don't eat there, don't read there, don't play computer games there. That way, even if you live in a really small space like most of us Skint students do, you can compartmentalise this one spot for work. The next great thing about being essentially self-employed is we can work on what we want. We don't have short-term projects or deadlines, just the one giant long one. So if one part of your PhD has been derailed by the lockdown, say you can't go in and do experiments, then you probably can work on some other related thing. If you're a first year, you can't do enough reading to fully understand your field, so that's something to do. You probably don't have any data to write up, which isn't great, but you can use this time to really plan out what you want your chapters to do. This is something I really wish I'd done. So while it's not as simple as designing a set path and following it, because what you discover in the middle might determine where you go next, for me, I spent way too long on my first chapter. I did too many experiments that were too similar and too time-consuming, and it meant by the time I got to nearer the end of my PhD and I was getting to the good stuff, I just didn't have the time to fully investigate it because I'd spent too much time at the start. So really thinking through your timescales rather than rushing into it like I did might be a way that your future self will really appreciate your use of this time right now. If you're a second or third year, it's never too early to start writing up, so that could be on your methods so far, your first results, or even start writing your thesis introduction on the sections that you've already got data for. You could also start plotting up your data really nicely. If you're a fourth year like me, while the last thing we need while we're writing up one of the most important documents of our life so far is a global pandemic, we're probably the year least affected by this. Use your nice fancy workspace, use the time you've got nothing better to legally fill it with, and just write. It's what you'd be doing anyway. The way I'm viewing this is, if there wasn't a pandemic on and the weather had been as gorgeous as it's been for a month straight, I would be miserable that I wasn't out hiking in Scotland or snorkeling in Wales. And if I was doing those things, I would feel miserably guilty. So be grateful that we are the first class of PhDs since 1918 who literally and legally have nothing better to do than sit glued to our desks and just write. For everyone in all years and at all stages, something I found really helpful right now is setting myself a target each day and then feeling really good about myself when I exceeded. Right now my target is X words per day, but if I exceed that, I will carry on writing until I reach a set time because I'm more interested in the routine. And then if I don't reach that target, I won't carry on writing past that time because I don't want to be too hard on myself. The bonus is just a nice thing to do if I get there. I think making a routine right now is really important so that we can try and get by as normal as possible. A lot of people are saying our productivity will be impaired because of the pandemic, and you know, if your situation has been thrown into upheaval because of this, then fair enough, things aren't going to be normal. But at the same time, we shouldn't use this as an excuse to allow ourselves to slide, and we should just try and crack on as normal best we can. If we can come out of it from the other side saying, I handled that well and I'm really proud of how I did, then that can only be a good thing. I really hope you're all keeping safe, sane and healthy wherever you are and however your country is handling the pandemic. Thank you for watching. My name is Lucy Kissick. I'm a final year PhD student at the University of Oxford.